Has it really been 100 episodes of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show? Indeed it has. Southern California, good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves a jam-packed show as, first and foremost, like I said, it's the 100th episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. It took a little over 2 years, but we finally made the 100 episode club. As for the topics, we have a recap of Chargers versus Rams. LAFC continues their winning ways. The Galaxy actually won a game, and they're in the top 6. Wave FC continues to belly flop, which makes me mad. The Dodgers are continuing to win despite a little shake-ups. The Padres are still trying to tread water, even though the Giants are starting to get a little bit close behind in the wild card race. And LeBron James signs an extension with the Los Angeles Lakers. Will Bronny be coming along for the ride soon? Who knows? And the Sparks finally ended their season as it was a disappointing one, finishing next to last in the WNBA standings. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you the 100th episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you for joining me on episode 100 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. It really means a lot. I'm not going to go fully into detail for what episode 100 means for me, but we do have some Southern California sports to discuss. And without any further delay, let's get on into that SoCal goodness of sports. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it is without IE Sports Radio. You can follow IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at IE Sports Radio, and on Facebook by typing in the word IE, then sports, then radio in the search bar. Also, IE Sports Radio has a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you go there, you will see a Patreon link at the top, which starts at $5 a month. This will get you a shout-out from all of our shows, all 28 of our shows, and higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, the podcasting university of IE Sports Radio, and even a chance to be featured on IE Sports Radio's flagship show in a little bit of a segment, The Defining Moment with Larry B. Thank you, everyone, for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Shout out to our 4 Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Marcus Losgreat, Key to the Gate, and a donor that wishes to remain anonymous. All right, now let's get this show on the road. So first and foremost, we have to address the elephant in the room, the thing that happened this past weekend, the Chargers versus the Rams. The Chargers and Rams squared off at SoFi Stadium as it was technically a home game for the Chargers, but that didn't mean anything just because it was obviously preseason and it did not really matter. So for the whole game, like I said, I'm not too big of a preseason guy. Preseason to me is just for player development and for who will make the roster cut and to see where everyone's at. Other than that, I don't care for preseason. If the Chargers won, awesome. If the Rams won, cool. But wins and losses in the preseason do not mean a darn thing to me. So as for the game itself, it was quite the game, honestly. I was rather impressed by both teams. Even though it was just reserves, both teams looked rather potent. And obviously the Chargers rolled out with Chase Daniel as well as Easton Stick. And then, contrary to what I said last week when I said John Wolford is starting, that is not the case. They decided to roll out with Bryce Perkins, the quarterback from Virginia. In the end, the Rams won 29-22, but like I said, it doesn't mean anything just because it's preseason. One player that really stood out to me on the Rams was Lance McCutcheon, I want to say. Yes, Lance McCutcheon, the wide receiver from Montana State. He was really good, and honestly, the Rams might have found another receiver in their receiver core. Obviously, they have Cooper Kupp, and they have Allen Robinson in the fray, as well as, I forget his name, it was something Jefferson, not Justin Jefferson, but I'm blanking on his name, surprisingly. Either way, you get what I mean. They have three good wide receivers in Cooper Kupp, obviously, Allen Robinson, and Van Jefferson. That's his name, Van Jefferson. I knew it began with his name was like not just an ordinary name. So Van Jefferson is the wide receiver 3, and then Allen Robinson's most likely wide receiver 2, and then Cooper Kupp is obviously wide receiver 1. So, as for Lance McCutcheon, he was really good. I think he could be a sneaky good weapon in case the Rams do, heaven forbid, have an injury on their squad. And I really think Lance McCutcheon can do great things. We'll just have to see where he's at in terms of preseason. We'll have to see where he's at in terms of the next preseason game and the preseason game after that. And who knows, maybe he'll make the cut. And then Bryce Perkins was pretty good as well. I think he's a solid solid backup quarterback for Matthew Stafford. And I really thought that the Rams played well, even though it's just preseason. And I thought their defense was pretty solid, and they did come up big with an interception. What I will kind of question is, and this is just a minor thing, is the run game. Obviously, they have Cam Akers and they have Darrell Henderson, but they didn't really have a true running back outside of Bryce Perkins, as Perkins actually led the Rams in rushing yards with 39. So the Rams didn't really go down to the run game all that much, which, even though the Chargers really struggled in containing some of the Rams' running backs in that game, I thought the Rams did a good job when it came to gashing the run defense, even though the Chargers started to adapt more and more. Jake Funk was mainly the main running back in that game. So as for the Chargers, one player I thought that stood out, and I think he's been really getting improvements, and I've kind of bashed this guy, is Joshua Kelly. So obviously, I have been very critical of Joshua Kelly. I told him I can't stand his fumbles. He can go fumble back to UCLA if he continues to fumble like this. But I think he's improved in the offseason, and he's clearly in the lead for that running back position. So for Joshua Kelly, he has been improving, and I did hear that he's kind of got his swagger back and he's got his mojo back. I really hope that is the case, just because I want him to improve. I think he can be a good running back too. But if he continues to fumble like he did in his rookie year when he fumbled in the Carolina game and the Tampa Bay game, which was the crucial turning point for the Bucs in that game, and then also in the Kansas City game, which kind of didn't matter just because Mahomes got picked off, and eventually the Chargers were able to cash in. But if Joshua Kelly does continue his fumbles, he's not going to be on this roster much longer. But I do have confidence in him. I feel he is getting better. I just hope he's able to take that next step. Otherwise, we will see more Isaiah Spiller. Isaiah Spiller, I kind of want to see as running back too. I think Isaiah Spiller has really done great things in camp, and he did some good things with the Chargers in this preseason game. He led the team in rushing yards with 34 yards, and his longest carry was 6, and he had 10 carries altogether. So overall, I think the Chargers might have found their running back too in Joshua Kelly, but it's too early to pull the trigger on that. I still wish the Chargers would sign a reliable veteran running back too, just because running backs in the draft, unless you get them like in the first or second round, they don't really come all that rare. It's not like Najee Harris and whatnot. So other players that stood out for the Chargers was Michael Bandy, as he, being the University of San Diego alum, really stood out. He had a touchdown, and he had 73 receiving yards, which was quite nice. He had 7 catches as well. Joe Reed also did some good things, as he had 61 yards. He was mainly kickoff return, but for me, I think he did great in this game as a wide receiver. I feel the Chargers have those pieces. It's just all about putting it together. And then we also got to see a little bit of a Jalen Guyton appearance, as he had a first down for the Chargers. He didn't get to play much, but I feel Jalen Guyton is going to have a little bit of competition for that wide receiver 3 position, because obviously Keenan Allen is wide receiver 1, Mike Williams is wide receiver 2, and then wide receiver 3 is either going to be Joshua Palmer, who had a solid rookie year, or Jalen Guyton, who, in my eyes, I think can be a real good wide receiver 3. Just because Jalen Guyton has a lot of speed. Maybe Joshua Kelly has speed as well, but I like Jalen Guyton as a wide receiver 3. I think Jalen Guyton should be the wide receiver 3. I really want him to. I think he can. I really hope he's able to. But we'll have to see. So overall for the Chargers, it was a solid game, even though unfortunately they lost. Someone else that I saw, and I did not know the Chargers signed this guy. They signed J.K. Scott, the punter out of Alabama, which is solid. I mean, he actually got some playing time with the Green Bay Packers, I think, a couple of years ago. So I'm happy that J.K. Scott is on the Chargers. And he hails from Alabama, so he obviously has to be promising. He has to be promising. Alabama players are more often than not promising. I'm just saying. I mean, he probably wasn't utilized a whole lot just because the Bama was getting first down after first down and eventually touchdowns with their quarterbacks. But, hey, what can you do? But it's good that the Chargers got J.K. Scott. I mean, nothing against Ty Long, but I think J.K. Scott is going to be a much more reliable option. He has that veteran experience, and I think he and Dustin Hopkins can do great things for the Chargers special teams. The special teams is what the Chargers really struggled with, but I really hope that eventually gets cleaned up. I do not want to see any more blocked punts or muffled punts or anything of that sort. I really think the Chargers are starting to get it together just because obviously they still have a little ways to go, and I feel the Chargers they have to do good this year. They have to. There's no more excuses for them not to do good. Also, they signed DeAndre Carter, who was the kickoff return man from Washington. So I really hope the Chargers can utilize Carter's fullest potential, just like they did with the previous kick returner who came from the Houston Texans, and then he went elsewhere. But either way, the Chargers now have DeAndre Carter, and I think DeAndre Carter can do great things. So some of the ugly that I saw in the Chargers game, and this is no bash. I hate to bash this guy, but this guy did not do the Chargers any favor. Dean Leonard. This dude was not good. He was getting called for pass interference. There was one play where I think he was trying to bring down Lance McCutcheon or deflect the ball, and then eventually he got in the way of Michael Davis, and eventually Lance McCutcheon scored a touchdown. But this dude, Dean Leonard, he was not good. I'm sorry, but this dude was not good. I can't begin to tell you how bad defensively Dean Leonard was. This dude was getting in everyone's way, and I can't really bash him that much just because I feel this dude. I feel he's only a rookie, and I don't want to demoralize him. But yeah, he's only a rookie. I get it. He's a rookie. He's not J.C. Jackson, Asante Samuel Jr. level. But it's like the dude was playing so bad. Like, bro. It was horrible to see. It's like, who is this Dean Leonard guy? Why is he on this team? He's ruining everything Chargers defensively. Oh my goodness. It was just so frustrating to see this Dean Leonard guy. He better clean it up, otherwise I don't want this man on the roster. He can go away. And also the Chargers have quite a bit of corners. Obviously I mentioned J.C. Jackson and Michael Davis and Asante Samuel Jr., but they do have Jasir Taylor, their rookie wide receiver, who they drafted out of Wake Forest in the latter rounds of the NFL draft. So I really think that Jasir Taylor should be a good cornerback for. Obviously, it's going to be quite tough considering he'll have to contend with J.C. Jackson, as well as Asante Samuel Jr. and Michael Davis. But I feel he has the potential to start in the NFL, especially for the Chargers. I really want him to do big things for the Chargers just because the cornerback position was another issue for the Chargers this season, or last season. So I'm interested to see what Jasir Taylor has to offer. I did hear that Jasir Taylor was not 100%. I heard he had a muscle tissue injury or something of that sort. But I don't think all I heard was that he's not going to play in the next preseason game for the Chargers, which will be against the Dallas Cowboys. But I feel he should be healthy by the time Week 1 rolls around. And boy, Week 1 is going to be something special. It's going to be a real barn burner. Real test for the Chargers. It's basically against the team that they lost to in Week 18. That's going to be interesting. So as for the Rams have their next game against Houston in the preseason. I want to say that's actually tonight. And yes, it is indeed tonight at 7 p.m. So nothing really to be too fully focused on. The Chargers play the Cowboys on Saturday night. But again, it's just preseason. I mean, I like preseason. I'm glad we get football. But I am not going to get suckered into wins and losses and where the team is at overall. And also, I really don't want to see any of the Chargers starters playing. Maybe the third stringers, like the running back 3 or the wide receiver 3 or anything 3 down. But please don't start the starters. I mean, look at Zach Wilson and what happened to him in the preseason. He got hurt, and he was lucky to not have a major injury. I think he hurt his ACL or MCL, and he's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks. There is hope that he could start in Week 1 for the Jets, but this just goes to show that you should not start your starters in preseason. Maybe give them 1 or 2 reps, especially toward the end of preseason, but it's please don't put them in danger, because if you lose them for the end in the preseason and you don't have them for the regular season, you are not doing a good job of keeping track of who needs to be healthy and who needs to just take it easy and who needs to just get extra reps and whatnot. Either way, that's kind of my little take on it. Before we move on from the NFL, Derwin James actually got an extension, and boy howdy, I am so happy. Derwin James got, and let us confirm his actual extension. So, Derwin James did get his contract extended, and I was so happy he got his contract extension. He got a 4-year extension worth $76.5 million deal. And then the $29 million in year 1 is also a record. So he is basically the highest paid safety in the NFL. I really hope the Chargers can utilize him to the fullest of his ability, because Derwin James, when healthy, is a game changer. I really want to see Derwin James on that field because he really is the heartbeat of the Chargers defense. Obviously, Derwin James had that one season where he tore his ACL or his Achilles, and he was done for the season back when Anthony Lynn was in his final year as head coach. And that was just a snowball effect of just unfortunate events for the Chargers that year. With Derwin healthy, the defense can really thrive, and I really think that the Chargers have that potential this season with Derwin James defensively. I really want to see him shine, just because if he is healthy, there's not much opposing teams can do. And the Chargers not only just have Derwin James, they have Nasir Adderley, JT Woods, and I hate to say this, but I really think that Alohi Gilman is improving when it comes to being a safety. I think Alohi Gilman is learning quite well. He knows if he doesn't produce this season, he's going to be up a creek without a paddle, and I don't want him to fail, and I don't want him getting cut, but it's just that if he does somehow manage to not make the roster, it just goes to show that it's another throwaway pick from the Chargers back when they had that draft. And I was very iffy on Alohi Gilman, but he's starting to get better. He had one of the interceptions in that game against the Chiefs and whatnot, so there's that right there. So congratulations to Derwin James. I'm happy he got extended. I could not be more happy for him. So that's going to do it for the NFL portion of the show. Speaking of extensions, that's actually a good segue to go into the next topic, the Los Angeles Lakers. So LeBron James will be staying a Laker as he got himself a contract extension with the Los Angeles Lakers, as it's going to be a 2-year deal worth, and if I'm not mistaken, it is a 2-year deal worth $97.1 million. So, and it also includes a player option for the 2024-2025 season. And he was in his final year of his deal worth $44.5 million. So the deal could also increase to $111 million if the salary cap in 2023 and 24 rises to a higher number. And this is according to Adrian Wojnarowski. So for LeBron James, I don't care if he's a Laker or not. I think this is huge. Everyone still says LeBron, or I wouldn't say still says, but everyone says LeBron is washed. Everyone says LeBron James is no more, and he's not going to be good anymore. Well, he's still a Laker, and he's still quite impressive. And honestly, I can't wait to see what he does with the Lakers. I really want him to get another ring with the Lakers. Obviously, the Lakers have had success at the beginning of new decades. They won a championship in 2020, and I don't care. It's a legit championship. Fight me. They won a championship in 2010 over the Celtics, and then they also won a championship in 2000, which was the start of the three-peat. So, for LeBron James getting that extension, obviously he's nearing the end of his career, and I really hope, even though I'm more of a Kobe Bryant guy, late great Kobe Bryant, I respect LeBron James, and the dude hasn't done anything crazy. Like, the dude hasn't, been all wild. He hasn't been in the news for the wrong reasons. He hasn't cheated on his wife, and he's done a lot of things. And the dude deserves his roses. Yes, the dude does get bashed a lot, and yes, the dude gets talked a lot negatively by Skip Bayless. But honestly, LeBron deserves his roses. He's a great guy, and I really hope he's able to get at least one more championship with the Lakers. If he does have to leave to go back to Cleveland, then so be it. But something else I'd be interested in is if he has his son Bronny on the team. Obviously, everyone is anticipating Bronny James to possibly be an NFL draft prospect. And Bronny is actually looking at schools such as Oregon and USC. But Oregon is clearly in the lead when it comes to Bronny's team to commit to when it comes to the end of his high school career and the beginning of his college career. Obviously, I hope he commits to USC, maybe a school in Southern California. But he obviously wants to go big time. He's not going to go with, no offense to these schools, he's not going to go with the Big West schools. And he's not going to go with, San Diego State, even though I think they have a promising team. He's obviously going to go with, the fat cats, like the Pac-12 schools, the SEC schools, the ACC schools. You get the point. So, like I said, LeBron's son Bronny is thinking of Oregon, and Oregon doesn't have the worst team out there in terms of the nation. Oregon has a solid team. It's just that they weren't solid enough. So that's my little spiel right there, and that's pretty much it for the NBA news. Obviously, the NBA schedule just got released, but we're near NFL season. Let me focus on the NFL first, then we'll get into the NBA season. Obviously, people are gonna. I've heard rumblings, and this is kind of something I would like to discuss. So, on First Take on ESPN, Stephen A. Smith says the Clippers basically are cleaning the streets of LA and they're running the streets of LA. Well, yes and no. Yes, the Clippers are indeed better than the Lakers, but they haven't won a championship. And obviously, Kawhi missed all of last season with the ACL injury that he had in the playoffs the previous year. So I don't think the Clippers are running the streets of LA. I think that in order for the Clippers to run the streets of LA, to quote Stephen A., they need to actually win a championship. And one Clipper fan said that the Clippers definitely need to win a championship because it's either championship or bust every single year for the Clippers. And for the Lakers, it's kind of just, if they get a championship, cool. But if not, then it's no big deal. They're still tied with the Celtics. But for the Clippers, I don't think they're ready. They should have the title of running LA. Obviously, they have gotten the better of the Lakers. They swept the season series last season. But I still think the Clippers have to win that championship in order to be the team to run LA. It's kind of like the Rams and the Chargers, somewhat. Obviously, Justin Herbert's kind of been bringing more fansmanship and more revenue to the Chargers, but the Rams are still the team in LA. I wouldn't say they're the team in California because everyone loves the Raiders, but I still think that the Rams are still the team in LA, and going back to the NBA, the Lakers should still be the team that runs LA in terms of the NBA. I'm just saying, y'all, until the Clippers do win a championship, the Lakers are still NBA's team from Los Angeles. So that is going to do it for the NBA portion of the show. Let's jump on into the MLB portion of the show. Yes, we're going to actually get the MLB out of the way just because I want to rip off the Band-Aid rather quickly. I want it to be a quick, clean rip instead of just delaying the pain. So we got to jump into the Angels because the Angels, like I said, well, not like I said, they have been continuing to be bad. They just recently got swept by the Seattle Mariners. Obviously, this was kind of expected, but it's like, come on, I hate losing to the Mariners, just because the Mariners and their fans, they're always like, oh, well, the Angels are wasting away all their players. Yes, but how many players have the Mariners wasted away? And how long has it been since the Mariners have made the playoffs? Yeah. I will say this about the Mariners. They are leading the top wildcard spot, but that wildcard spot in the American League is getting rather interesting. Even the Red Sox, which are, they're dead last in their division? Yes, they're dead last in their division, still have a shot at the wild card. But I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. So, back to the Angels, just because that's what we're talking about. The Angels got swept by the Mariners. They lost the first game on Monday 6-2, the second game on Tuesday 8-2, and the last game on Wednesday 11-7. Previously, they actually took 2 out of 3 against the Minnesota Twins. Last Friday, they lost to the Twins 4-0. They beat the Twins in 11 innings 5-3, and then they lost to the Twins 4-2 on Sunday. So, not bad if you ask me. I really think the Angels are still not going to the playoffs. And something that was really funny was that Shohei Ohtani hit his 27th home run, and everyone, their moms, basically want to meme that as they basically said, Shohei Ohtani hits a 3-run home run, his 27th of the season, as the Angels are down 11-7 to the Mariners. It's like, End the season, please, Angels. It's not like all these other sports games like NFL, like the Madden, NBA Live, and on all these other franchise video games where you can just fast forward to the end of the season and simulate games. It's not like that. So, back to the Angels. In reality, the Angels have a 3-game road trip as they have a road series against the Detroit Tigers. Then, following that, they have a 4-game road trip against the Tampa Bay Rays. And then after that, they have another 3-game road trip next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday against the Toronto Blue Jays. So the Angels are going to be racking up the mileage points, but they're going to be far away from the Big A as possible. So, yeah, it's not really... They're going to be rather homesick, if you ask me. But honestly, the Angels are starting to get into the big thick of their schedule. Obviously, the Detroit Tigers are still the Detroit Tigers. They're even worse than the Angels. Oof. But the Rays and then the Blue Jays are basically going to be a brutal 7-game series altogether. And then after that, once the Angels get back home, they welcome a not-so-friendly face in the New York Yankees. Now, the Yankees have obviously been struggling ever since the All-Star break passed, but they're still fairly good. And then the Angels have another home series against the Houston Astros following that series against the Yankees. And then they don't get much of a breather until they face the Detroit Tigers on September 5th all the way to the 7th. So, yeah, the Angels are starting to get into the big kahuna of their schedule. And they don't really have too many easy games on their schedule remaining. It's really going to be a brutal schedule until they get, toward the end of September. But I seriously can't wait till the Angels season just ends, so I don't really have to talk about them. It's like the Angels just continue to just disappoint me. It's really frustrating. And obviously, we haven't really heard... I don't know if we've heard much of Mike Trout. I want to say he's still injured, and it's just a bad year, dude. It's like a never-ending cycle. It's like once you run, it's like running through a forest and when you're lost. It's like when you run and you think you're near civilization land, it's just more trees and more forestry down the road, and it's like, yeah. Also should mention in that 27th home run of the season for Shohei Ohtani that he actually had 4 hits in that game, but the Angels still lost to the Mariners. So it's like, get me out of here. End the season, please. It's just too much, man. It was actually a 2-run home run. It wasn't a 3-run home run, so my mistake. So that's that for the Angels. Jumping on over to a team that's much better in Southern California, the Dodgers. They have a 3-game series against the Miami Marlins. So last time I talked about the Dodgers, obviously Vince Scully passed away, but the Dodgers had won, 11 in a row? 11 in a row over most of their opponents. They just swept the Twins, they swept the Padres, and they also swept the Giants in series. Against the Kansas City Royals, they took 2 out of 3 against the Royals, as they actually won the first game 8-3 and the second game 13-3. And that winning streak went from 11 to 13, and all was good in Dodgerland. Until the winning streak ended in the final game of the series, as the Royals won 4-0, which snapped the 13-game winning streak. In their most recent series against the Milwaukee Brewers, the Dodgers took 2 out of 4. They split the series against the Brewers, as they won the first series 4-0, lost the second game, or they took the first game of the series 4-0, lost the second game 5-2 in 11 innings, despite Corey Taylor having an amazing grab, which looked like it was going to be a base hit, but it was near the warning track, and he was able to catch it before the ball reached the ground. The Angels eventually won 2-1, despite Corey Kimbrell getting the save. As yes, Corey Kimbrell actually got a save. Can you believe it? I think he was winless I think the Dodgers were like winless when Corey Kimbrell had to like nurse a 1-run lead, and it was getting a little hairy in that ninth inning. But then Corey Kimbrell was able to shut the door on the Brewers, which made me happy. And the Dodgers lost the final game of the series 5-3, which basically gave them a split against the Brewers, which isn't bad, just because the Brewers they're not terrible by all means. Some were saying that the Dodgers were going to lose 3 out of 4, and some were saying the Dodgers were going to have a letdown. But I feel the Dodgers I even said it last week on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I had a feeling the Dodgers' win streak was eventually going to come to an end. If it wasn't going to come to an end against the Royals, it was going to come to an end against the Brewers. So, yeah. So the Dodgers have a 3-game homestand against the Miami Marlins starting tonight at 7:10, and then it goes all the way till Sunday. And they have a 3-game homestand against the Milwaukee Brewers, so this time they'll welcome Christian Yelich and company to the Chavez Ravine. And then the Dodgers face the Miami Marlins again next week. Instead, it'll be a 4-game series, which will go from Friday all the way down to Monday. I should also make note that the Dodgers have a 3-game series against the New York Mets from Tuesday, August 29th, or August 30th, all the way to September 1st. That's a huge series just because everyone and their moms are saying the Mets are going to win the whole World Series. They look more polished. This is their year. I want to see if they actually are going to look good. Like, I don't mean to say this in a negative way, but the Mets, to me, they still are the Mets. Until I see otherwise, I'm still not sold on the Mets. I'm not sold on the Mets, and no one can tell me otherwise. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. I'm not trying to say the Mets aren't going to win the World Series, but it's like every single year the Mets seem to always find a way to lose when it truly matters the most. So we'll see what happens with the Mets in the playoffs. But we shouldn't really be talking playoffs just yet. Currently, the Mets are leading the NL East, as they've actually been in a dogfight with the Atlanta Braves most recently. I think it's between those two, it's anyone's division. And then looking at the wild card of the National League, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and San Diego, more about them later, are basically dogfighting each other for the spots in the wild card. But for the Dodgers, they're still, are they the best team in the MLB? Yes, they are. They actually are the best team in the MLB. They were actually the first team to reach 80 wins, which was quite nice. That's something I definitely should make note of just because no other team has made 80 wins. Sorry, not sorry. They should have more wins, but they apparently can't seem to beat some of the low-ranked teams such as the Nationals or the the Pirates. As we welcome Davidson Crooks in the chat room, he says, "What's good?" Just talking SoCal sports. This is episode 100, and Davidson says Houston is the best team in the league, and I'm talking about record-wise. Houston is the second best team in the MLB, right behind the Dodgers, but they are the best team in the American League. But in the entire MLB as a whole, the Dodgers are the best team record-wise. But the Astros are not to be slept on. Like, they're definitely poised for another deep playoff run, or not just deep playoff run, a World Series run, because they could possibly get back into the World Series rather easily. All they just got to do is just get really past the Yankees, and I don't think a whole lot can really stop the Houston Astros, if I'm being perfectly honest. And yes, I understand everyone still hates the Astros for what they did, but there's still a little bit of respect for them, considering they have been consistently good, and I have a little bit of a soft spot for Dusty Baker. So, jumping over to the Padres, so obviously this has been quite the nightmarish week for them. It kind of got a little worse as they lost 2 out of 3 to the Marlins. The good news is that they were able to take 2 out of 3 against the Nationals last weekend, winning on Friday 10-5, but losing on Saturday 4-3, and then winning on Sunday 6-0, which gave them the rubber match. The Marlins, on the other hand, was a different story as they lost the first game 3-0, they lost the second game 4-3, and then they won the third and final game 10-3. So yesterday, the Padres started a 4-game series against the Washington Nationals at Petco Park. The Nationals won the first game 3-1, which is not really promising for the Padres, just because the Padres are still trying to get that wild card spot. They're the third team in the wild card race. However, the Brewers are right behind their tails as they're only a game behind them. And don't sleep on the Giants as well. The Giants, even though they are I wouldn't say way back, but they're still quite a ways back. They still have a pulse. A better pulse than the Cardinals and all those other teams that are just crammed near the back of the wild card spot. I'm just saying. So looking at the Nationals and Padres, they have 3 more games all the way up till Sunday. Then the Padres have Monday off before they have a 2-game tilt against the Cleveland Guardians. And then next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they hit the road to Kansas City to take on the Royals. Then the Padres have a 3-game series against the San Francisco Giants, which I think is going to be crucial. In my eyes, the Padres have to take 2 out of 3 against the Giants. If they do so, then it'll only benefit them going forward, just because September is that money month. That is basically the money month. They have to come up big. And without Fernando Tatis Jr. due to injury and due to his suspension, the Padres basically have to utilize Juan Soto, Manny Machado, and all those other players. Otherwise, they'll miss the playoffs for a second straight year. And it'll be quite the disappointment if the Padres do miss the playoffs a second straight year. Like, all this hype about the Padres and how people are saying, who are you going to pitch to in their lineup? 1 through 9, you can't pitch to anyone without giving up a hit or a run. It's like, well, you can't pitch to the Padres if they don't make the playoffs. I'm just saying. So, the Padres then follow up their series against the Giants that following week against the Dodgers, and it's going to be at the Chavez Ravine. And as we all know, the Dodgers treated the Padres like toilet water. So this month, or the month of September, is kind of going to be, I wouldn't say brutal toward them, but it's kind of going to be an uphill climb as they've got the Dodgers in 2 3-game series. Actually, make that 3 3-game series. And then they've also got the Mariners, which are vying for playoff position, and the Cardinals, which are vying for a division title, and that's pretty much it. And then the latter of September, which has 1 game against the White Sox, which eventually turns into a 3-game series, jumping into the month of October. White Sox are kind of vying for a playoff spot. I wouldn't say they're like vying for a division title, just because that division, the American Central, has just been all over the place, man. Heck, they still have a shot at the division. It's just that it's just been a complete logjam with the Twins, White Sox, and Guardians just giving the division to one another. So that's pretty much that for the Padres. I still have them making the playoffs, but I really hope it doesn't boil down to the final game of the season, where it's basically win and you're in, and then lose and then you go home. But for the Padres, they should be able to hold off the Brewers. I didn't really expect the Cardinals to come out of nowhere and basically swoop the division from Milwaukee. I mean, Milwaukee still has a shot at winning the division, but I wouldn't count them out just yet. I think Milwaukee, even though they're 3 back of the Cardinals, I still think they have a lot of potential, and I still think they can get the job done in the National League Central. Whoever's going to be the wild card team from the National League Central is going to have either A, tough draw, or B, a tough finish, just because they will basically be on the outside. They'll basically be on the outside looking in. if the Padres make the playoffs. If the Padres miss the playoffs, then the Padres will be on the outside looking in, and then everyone's going to say, well, they should expand the wild card to 4 teams. It's like anything to try to help the Angels make the playoffs. Like, why don't we put everyone in the playoffs just because baseball can be a game of peaks and valleys? I'm just saying. So that is that for the MLB portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial breaky break. When we come back, we have the soccer portion of the show with the MLS and the NWSL. And then we got to go over the Sparks and their disappointing season. That's going to basically be a bandage that I'm going to hate to take off. And then we also have the Dum Dum of the Week. And I got to reflect on 100 episodes of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after a word from these messages.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pulp culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are you a fan of the best teams in the Buckeye State? Then this is a show for you. This is the State of Ohio Sports, where I, your host, Andrew Higginbotham, will bring you all the professional news as well as all things college from Northeast Ohio and Cleveland, all the way down to Southwest Ohio and Cincinnati, and even in the heart of the state in the state capital of Columbus. So if this sounds like the show for you, check out the State of Ohio Sports Show every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Some say that Indiana is just a flyover state. Flatlands and cornfields, barns and country roads. What if I told you Indiana is the crossroads of America? What if I told you in all other states, basketball is just basketball? In Indiana, basketball is life. Crowded high school basketball gyms on a Friday night, and every barn with a basketball rim and a frayed, worn-out net. If you're interested in the heartbeat of America, and if you're interested in sports, if you have Hoosier running through your veins, the Crossroads Pod with Aaron X is made for you. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Each and every week, the Crossroad Pod covers all of Indiana sports. The pride of the horseshoe of the Indianapolis Colts. The blue-collar gold swagger of the Indiana Pacers. The relentless pursuit of the sixth banner for the Indiana Hoosiers. The swing of the hammer of the Purdue Boilermakers. The swoop of the Cardinals of Ball State. The summoning of the echoes of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The growl of the Bulldogs of Butler. The intensity of an Indiana fever. The chop of the Indianapolis Indians. At the Crossroads Pod, if it is Indiana, we've got you covered. more than cornfields, more than country back roads. The crossroads of America. Join me, Aaron X, every week. It's nothing but net.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS? Well then look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
That is right, everyone. Definitely do check out all of our amazing shows, such as the Crossroads Pod, Sin City Sports, Sports Couples Perspective, and 3 and Out College Edition. Larry B. and I will be back with 3 and Out College Edition tomorrow, as I believe that'll be Season 3 of 3 and Out College Edition, if I'm not mistaken. Because we kind of had Season 1, last year we had Season 2, and then this year we'll mark Season 3. Welcome back to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Gina G and Mike Pat drop in the chat room on Spreaker. They say, congratulations on 100 episodes. That is from Gina. And Mike says, congrats on 100, man. That is epic. I appreciate you both tuning in, and appreciate the kind words. Let's get back into the SoCal goodness. Before I do, I mentioned 3 and Out College Edition. I do talk high school sports with Larry B, or high school football. For those that don't follow me on Twitter, at Teran Rodriguez 1, I do basically cover high school football. So if you're into high school football in California, I'm kind of your guru. I don't really like to get into it too much unless it's like the championship game and whatnot, like the CIF Southern Section Division I Finals. But what I have heard is that SoFi Stadium is planning to be the site for Mater Dei versus St. John Bosco, and I'm quite surprised by this. Now, the seating at SoFi is basically quite amazing. It's like, I think it holds like more than 70,000 people, if not 80,000. But do we really have to go that much? Are people really going to flock all the way over from Santa Ana or Bellflower to Los Angeles in SoFi Stadium? I mean, it is the hottest ticket in the house, but there are other high school football games that people go to. It's not just modern-day St. John Bosco, but either way, it is going to be a barn burner. I would love to see modern-day St. John Bosco in SoFi Stadium, but I think for high school, maybe not. If they get the approval from, like, the landlords from SoFi, so be it. But if they don't, then it's not the end of the world, and we're all going to still be alive. And they could probably just have, like, the game in, like, the Coliseum if it's not being used. I mean, the Rose Bowl is kind of like the monument for, like, most high school football games. I think that's going to be where the CIF finals are going to be. So why not have modern-day St. John Bosco in the Rose Bowl, unless UCLA is playing, and then have the CIF finals at SoFi, unless other things will be happening at SoFi. But either way, that's kind of my little nugget right there. For those that didn't know that, then you just learned something new. All right, now jumping on back into the pro sports scene. So we got to go back to the Los Angeles Sparks, and we're going to make this quick and painless for the Los Angeles Sparks and their portion of the show. The Sparks ended this season on a 3-game losing streak, as their final week of the season saw them losing to the Connecticut Sun 97-71 and losing to the Sun again 93-69. And then their final game of the season, the Sparks went out with a whimper as they wound up losing 116-88. Just an absolute terrible season for the Sparks. In the end, the Sparks finished near the bottom of the WNBA standings. They finished with the second worst record. I get it, the playoff spot was rather jammed in terms of the final playoff spot, but finishing near the bottom is just so disappointing. Obviously, they finished a further second to last from the Indiana Fever, but still, it's just absolutely terrible. And the Sparks just were not there. Ever since they had so much turmoil with Derek Fisher getting fired, and then Liz Cambage eventually stepping away, or basically having a contract divorce with the Sparks, it just went all downhill from there, and the Sparks really disappointed me. I was hopeful they would make the playoffs. Even if they were the 8th seed, I would not have minded, just because, well, obviously they're in the playoffs, but once again, we get the Sparks that miss the playoffs, and they just went out with a whimper, and if they had at least won their final game, I wouldn't have been overly disappointed, but it was just bad, man. It was just bad. I'm sorry, but the Sparks were just a highly disappointing team this season. And I really hope that they can get the players that actually want to be there instead of the players that kind of just want to be there. And hopefully they can get the true head coach for their guy. Nothing against Fred Williams. He did the best job he possibly could as interim coach, but I just don't think he was suitable as the head coach job. He'll be the assistant coach, and I hope he is the assistant coach, but the Sparks just need players that want to actually be there. They did get the emergence of Katie Lou Samuelson, who I thought was the big bright spot for the Sparks, and I'm glad they picked her up. They have to continue to have her on the team, as well as Nneka Ogwumike. They have to continue to keep her. But other than that, they just have to keep all their players truly happy. And they basically just have to get the players that truly want to be there instead of just players that kind of want to be there. It's basically getting the correct player personnel and not the players that are just iffy, in my opinion. If that makes sense. So that's that for the Sparks. Jumping over to the MLS portion. So it's the tale of two teams when it comes to the MLS. The Galaxy and LAFC. LAFC has just been continuing to steamroll teams, while the Galaxy have been just barely been able to tread water. However, well, I guess we'll go to the Galaxy first. The Galaxy actually won against Vancouver last Saturday, winning 5-2 after that atrocious loss to Kansas City. And believe it or not, that win actually catapulted the Galaxy from, I want to say it was 9th place, all the way up to 6th place, or at least a tie for 6th place with Vancouver and Nashville, as well as Portland. So the last two the last two spots in the playoffs in the Western Conference is really heating up, as the Galaxy. God, let's talk MLS. The Galaxy are one of 4 teams that are vying for a playoff spot. And that's not just the Galaxy vying for a playoff spot. It's also the Seattle Sounders vying for a playoff spot, the Colorado Rapids, which are still in the playoff hunt. It's basically anyone's playoff spot for 6 and 7. Speaking of the Seattle Sounders, the Galaxy face the Seattle Sounders tonight. The Sounders have lost 2 in a row, but that does not mean they are short of talent. This is obviously a big rivalry game. It's not like El Tráfico, but I really think that the Galaxy and the Sounders are going to be basically duking it out. And this is huge for playoff positioning for both teams, because Seattle is only 1 point out of that final playoff spot, or final 2 playoff spots, as Seattle has 32 points, while the Galaxy, Vancouver, Nashville, and Portland all have 33. And then Real Salt Lake has 37, so if Real Salt Lake gets cold and the Galaxy, Vancouver, Nashville, and Portland all get hot, then we could be seeing one of those teams eventually jump to 5 and whatnot. So I think it's going to be quite something if the Galaxy win. The Galaxy have to win. If they come up big, then they could revitalize their season not revitalize their season, but revive their season, as they do get the emergence of Ricard Puig, who transferred from Spain. He has not played for the Galaxy, but like I said, he transferred. I want to say he was from like Liga MX or one of the European leagues. But either way, Ricard Puig is going to be quite something to watch for. He might be the heaven sent for the Galaxy. He might kind of be I wouldn't call him the Mookie Betts, but it's kind of close. So either way, Ricard Puig is a player to watch for. I really want to see the Galaxy increase their goal output. If they have another 5-goal outing against Seattle, like they did against Vancouver, they're golden, man. They are golden. But against Seattle, it's not going to be easy. It is going to be played at Dignity Health Sports Park, so I really look forward to seeing the Galaxy actually getting the job done, because this could be huge in terms of playoffs, because this could be the one loss or the one game that could make or break the Galaxy's playoff hopes. And if they somehow don't make the playoffs and they wind up losing this game, they're going to look back on this game and say, why the heck did we lose this game? So that is that for the Galaxy portion. Jumping over to LAFC, who continues to just dominate. They're still on what is it? They've won 6 in a row, 7 in a row, I want to say. Let me just do my math real quick. 4, carry the 2, minus 3. Yes, they have won 7 in a row, as last Saturday they stomped on Charlotte FC 5-0. Like, my goodness. As they basically defended the bank. And earlier this week, LAFC actually beat DC United. And Mike, I'm so sorry I have to bring this up. LAFC defeated DC United 1-0. But that's kind of not bad, considering DC United held their own throughout the first half. Unfortunately for DC United, Steve Birnbaum got a red card, and 7 minutes after that, LAFC scored courtesy of Kwadwo Opoku. If I mispronounced that, I'm sorry. But, yeah. I still am a little baffled by how LAFC really struggled in that game. It's like, the fact that they had to sneak past DC United speaks that no team is safe on a nightly basis. And DC United is the bottom of the Eastern Conference. So the fact that the LAFC was barely able to get off a win, they probably could have won by a whole lot more than just 1-0, but you can't complain at this point. So for LAFC, they're still leading the pack of not only the Western Conference but the MLS. They have 57 points, which is quite nice, as they're way ahead of Austin, which is second in the Western Conference. So going back to LAFC, they play San Jose tomorrow, which I think is going to be a barn burner. It's going to be in San Jose, a.k.a. PayPal Park, a.k.a. Triple P. So it's kind of a rivalry game right there. Once again, it's one of those interstate rivalries, which San Jose and LAFC and I guess LA Galaxy kind of share that rivalry with San Jose. But if LAFC does win that one, then expect them to have a barn burner the following week. However, San Jose, I think, is going to be a huge trap game for LAFC. I really think that could be a big trap game just because rivalry games are always big and you get caught up in them and then they eventually force you to look ahead. Because next week's opponent for LAFC is Austin, the second place team from the Western Conference, and that could be a huge game. Obviously, the LAFC is just dominating the standings, but for me, I feel LAFC could look ahead, just because they're going to be on the road, and then they have another big game ahead of themselves next week, and then they have another road game against Houston, though they've lost 4 in a row. So LAFC is going to be far away from Bank of America Stadium, or Bank of California Stadium, as possible. Their next home game won't be until they play Real Salt Lake on September 4th. And even when they play Real Salt Lake, they're only going to have 2 games at home, as their next home game isn't going to be until the 18th. And then after that, they're going to have an extended break all the way to October when they face Portland and Nashville to close out the season. So, yes, Gina says, let's go Quakes. Yeah, and looking at the standings, I want to see where the Quakes are, as the Quakes are near the bottom of the Western Conference. I was going to say, if San Jose is vying for a playoff spot, then this is huge for them. I'm not trying to say San Jose is out of the playoff hunt. They're still very much in it, but they have so much ground to make up. Like, they'd have to hope that everyone stops playing and that they start winning. So I feel the Quakes could be a trap game opponent for LAFC, but as long as LAFC just takes care of business, then they should be fine. As long as they don't give up like 3 goals in 1.5 like the Galaxy did that one game against San Jose, LAFC should be fine. I don't really think that LAFC should be fearing too much. The only way they lose is if they look ahead and if they literally just stop playing and they just start playing like individuals and not play like a team. Gina says, still adjusting with the new head coach. Yeah, that is... that's kind of brutal right there. And yeah, it's just been tough sledding for San Jose. Just tough times for the Quakes. But they'll eventually get there. And they could possibly play spoiler to some of these other teams just because how tight the race is for the 6 and 7 spot, and maybe the 5 spot for that matter. The Quakes could possibly play spoiler to some of these teams vying for a playoff spot. So I think San Jose is not a team to underestimate, especially in a rivalry game. And obviously it's so easy to just look ahead just because after the Saturday game, LAFC kind of has, I wouldn't say a short week, but a shortened week, as their next game is going to be Friday against Austin, and they have to go on the road, and they're going to have to adjust to being on the road as opposed to being at Bank of California Stadium, so we'll see what happens. So that's that for the MLS portion of this show. Let us jump on into some NWSL action, then we'll take ourselves one more break, and then we'll I'll send you all on your way. So, for the NWSL, unfortunately, and this is a big unfortunately, San Diego Wave FC lost to Orlando this past weekend, as they lost 1-0 to Orlando at Torero Stadium. The win could have definitely been useful for them, as that could have helped catapult them back into first place. But now they are in third place, as Houston continues to, I wouldn't say they continue to win, but they're kind of picking up some steam as they just beat Gotham 2-1, as Portland continues to not lose. I get it, Monterey beat Portland in this International Cup, but that does not mean anything. International Cup is way more different than NWSL. If people are making a huge deal of that game just because the Portland Thorns lost in penalty kicks, you're stupid. And I guess I should also make note that Portland plays Chelsea in the International Cup, but again, I guess they're playing for third place because Portland was playing in the semifinals, but they're going to play Chelsea for third place. We don't care about the Portland Thorns, though. I'm just going to still say this. That tie that Wave FC had against Portland when NWSL did not have VAR still irks me. I'm not going to get over that loss. And if that loss just so happens to be the difference maker between Wave FC getting a bye and Wave FC having to play in the quarterfinals, I'm still going to make note of that, and I am not going to be happy. I still think that there should be VAR in NWSL just like there is in MLS or instant replay. I'm sick of this. Wave FC got robbed in the game against Portland. Don't argue with me. I'm just saying. Anyway, before I lose my mind, Wave FC has a big game this Saturday against Houston. This is kind of a crucial game, just because Houston is just as hot as, Portland. I really think that is going to be crucial for both Houston and Wave FC. Especially for Wave FC. Like, if they continue to go down the spiral of losing, they're not going to have the 1 or 2 spot. They'll probably be in the 3 spot, and I just don't think that's the best place for them to be at. I want them to be as far away from Portland as they possibly can, just because I don't think any team wants to play Portland. Yes, they did lose to Monterey, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, Houston, I don't even know the last time when Houston lost. And keep in mind, I said Houston lost. Their last loss came in July, so if they continue their winning way, they haven't lost in over a month, which, ironically enough, they lost to Orlando. So, for Wave FC, they've lost 2 in a row. They have to snap this losing streak against Houston. If they're able to, awesome. I really want them to win. A tie wouldn't be too bad, but it's like, come on. You got to snap this losing streak somehow. Just because now you're starting to lose your ground atop the NWSL. You're tied for third with Kansas City, a team that also beat you. And then OL Reign's not too far from you. The Chicago Red Stars, which I'll be getting to them in a little bit, aren't too far from you. And even Angel City's not too far from you. So Wave FC really has to keep it going. Otherwise, they could fall further and further down. Because remember, the top 6 teams advance to the playoffs. And then the first 2 teams get the bye. And then 3 through 6 duke it out against one another. So that is basically that for Wave FC. Now that I mentioned Angel City, they too are also trying to vie for playoff spot, as they actually just beat the Chicago Red Stars 1-0 at the Bank of California Stadium, which is very impressive and it makes me happy. So good job for Angel City. Remember, this has just been such a tough year for Angel City. They lost their best player, Kristen Press, to a season-ending ACL injury. So it still has been tough sledding for Angel City. But winning over Chicago was quite a big victory for them. They have another big matchup against Kansas City in Kansas City tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Angel City would definitely benefit from winning that game. And it would be another big statement win. I think that a win over Kansas City might be bigger than the Wave FC win, just because they have to go on the road to beat Kansas City, whereas they beat San Diego at Bank of California Stadium. So the thing for Angel City is that a win would benefit not only themselves, but it would benefit San Diego, because in case San Diego does lose to Houston, then they'd have that little cushion to fall back on. But back to Angel City, they are currently 7th in the NWSL standings, and they definitely need as many more wins as possible. Obviously, Chicago has kind of hit a little bit of a snag in the road, even though the previous game, despite prior to Angel City, Chicago was able to win that one. But back to Angel City. Angel City still needs to win as many games as possible, just because the season is winding down. After tonight, Angel City only has 2 more games remaining, and the race in the playoff race is getting so tight. Like, even Portland's not safe, despite Portland still having not lost a match ever since May. I hate to veer away from the SoCal teams in the NWSL, but the fact that Portland has not lost a match ever since May 21st is really impressive. In other words, if they don't lose, it'll be, by the time they play another NWSL game, it'll have been 3 months since Portland last took a loss. It's rather impressive, and I'm actually miscounting just because Portland, there is way more games in the NWSL than I'm counting. So after tonight, Angel City will have a whopping 7 games remaining in the NWSL regular season. And September is going to be the big money month, as they've got Houston, San Diego, Louisville is kind of vying for a playoff spot. North Carolina is kind of out, and Washington is near the bottom. So that's kind of their big month where they have to come up big, and winning. And then Louisville is kind of going to be I wouldn't say, okay, Louisville's not really in it. I'm sorry, but Angel City has a favorable month outside of Houston and San Diego. But remember, Angel City did beat San Diego in the first meeting, so obviously that's going to be fresh in Wave FC's mind, but it's also going to be fresh in Angel City's mind, as they still, like I said, they need as many games. They need to win as many games as possible. They need to beat up on the teams they can beat up on. They have to beat the North Carolinas, which is chilling in last place, the Washingtons, and the Louisvilles, which is near the bottom. So that's basically my little spiel on Angel City. But like I said, a win over Kansas City would be huge. Even though Kansas City hasn't lost a match in their most recent matches. They haven't lost, like I said, in 5 matches. I want to say their last loss came in June? Yeah, it's looking like it. According to the ESPN Sports Center app, it's actually further than June. Kansas City's last loss came against OL Reign on May 25th. So it's another team that has not lost a match in nearly 3 months. And this is kind of concerning if you're a Wave FC fan. This is kind of where you're thinking, why is Wave FC stopped winning, and why are all the other teams getting hot? So, but back to Angel City. A win over Kansas City would be huge, but it's going to be so tough to win at Kansas City. But one can only hope. But if Angel City does win on the road, it would be a huge victory. So we'll see what happens. That's going to do it for Angel City and the MLS portion of the show. We'll take ourselves one little quick commercial break. When we come back, we will have the Dum Dum of the Week, and we will have a reflection of 100 episodes of Set Point. Or not Set Point, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. You're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IA Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Larry B popped in the chat room. He says, "Congratulations on 100 episodes, Teran." And I was gonna save this for my reflection of 100 episodes, but first and foremost, I do want to thank Larry B for giving me a chance to do this show. It really means a lot, and I really do appreciate you taking a chance on me with this show. And while it hasn't been easy sledding, I really do appreciate the platform and all that you do for iSports Radio and for everything that you've done for not only me, but for the rest of the team. So your leadership and your behind-the-scenes work does not go unnoticed, in my opinion. So thank you, Larry B., and that's pretty much that in terms of that shout-out. But before we get into the rest of the reflections, we're gonna get into the Dum Dum of the Week. So the Dum Dum of the Week award is an award I love to give out to either an organization or any person that I think is deserving of it. Anyone can get the award. No one is safe from this award, in my opinion, and anyone can be deserving of it. So I was thinking of not doing a Dum Dum of the Week award, but it's after what I read on Monday, I needed to do. This guy was basically the Dum Dum of the Week award. This dude needs to get Dum Dum of the Week. And I don't know why I haven't given this guy Dum Dum of the Week in a while, but this needs to be done. So, as we all know, high school kids they're not like athletes. They're not paid, they're not professionals. They basically are far from pro athletes. And honestly, I don't think any high school athlete should be bashed or judged or anything of that sort. But on Monday, one kid playing basketball or club basketball, Bronny James, had himself an amazing dunk, and he just dunked the ball really hard, and everyone was in awe. And I saw the dunk myself, and it's this guy's good. So that is awesome sauce. But one guy on Twitter decided to take to Twitter and I wouldn't really say rain on the parade, but I'd also say piss on the bonfire. And excuse me for saying that. And that one person goes by the name of Skip Bayless. So he tweets out, "Hey Bronny, impressive, but your dad would have dunked it left-handed. You sure got away with it though." Okay, I'm really sick. First of all, this dude, Skip Bayless, gets paid millions to talk about LeBron, the Dallas Cowboys, and all that other garbage on First Things First, or whatever his show is, Undisputed. I don't care I don't really watch the show, and boy howdy, I'm glad I don't. I have better things to do, such as sleep. But, okay, I get the riding of LeBron James, but the dude, you can't ride a high school player. You can't judge a high school player. They're high school kids. It's that did not really sit well with me. It's I can't believe he really, said that. I get it. He obviously has to have his daily mention of LeBron James, but my dude, it is literally just a high school kid. You can't judge that. And I understand I can be judgmental, but I don't judge the high school kids too much. I just report what it is. And it's I feel not only LeBron lives rent-free in his head, but the whole James family lives rent-free in his head. Eventually, Skip Bayless had an episode of his podcast called The Skip Bayless Show, saying in his most recent episode that he's never gotten a reaction so much when it came to one tweet about a high schooler. Let me just tell you this, Skip. You talked about a high school kid. A high school kid. If it was a college kid, I would be a little bit more understandable, but he is from high school. This is a high school kid. He does not get paid. He is playing club basketball. He's in off season. Why are you judging? This is so disgusting and despicable. It's just infuriating. I can't do this. And yes, Gina, Undisputed has turned into a dumpster fire. It makes me wonder why he probably left First Take. Probably was for the best, but my God. It's the riding of LeBron James is one thing, but riding LeBron's kid is another. It's like, don't you have like a life? Don't you have the Dallas Cowboys to talk about? Don't you have Dak Prescott highlights to watch? It's just so face-palming, dude. Like, I could not stay silent for long. I had to quote tweet this from the SoCal Supreme Sports Show Twitter account. I said this man really went after a high school kid. The James family lives rent-free, and it is really just absolutely disgusting. This is why I don't watch Undisputed. Not just because I don't want to hear the bad takes, or I don't want to hear Skip Bayless talk about LeBron or the Dallas Cowboys or anything of that sort. I just don't want to see Skip Bayless after that ridiculous bad take. And his little tweet is just absolutely saddening. It's unacceptable, dude. And the fact that he even had his little topic of, I've never gotten such a reaction after talking about Bronny. Well, again, you're talking about a high school kid, dude. If you were talking about a professional athlete, it'd be a little bit more understandable, or maybe a college athlete, but still, you're talking about a high schooler, dude. It's unacceptable. And by talking about LeBron James, Bronny, and his dunk, first and foremost, let's see you try to dunk, my man. I get it, I'm not the most athletic guy ever, but Skip Bayless is saying LeBron would have done it with his left hand. Well, let's see you dunk with your left hand. Matter of fact, we'll lower the rim for you. We'll make it so you're able to dunk it. But Skip Bayless, after your continuous bashing of LeBron James, and your bashing of LeBron James's kid after what was an amazing dunk, well, maybe not amazing, but still a spectacular dunk, you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week award. Wait. Let me turn you up, my guy. Let me turn you up. Talk to the people real quick.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And this is why I'm very happy I have decided not to watch/listen to mainstream garbage. I just can't do it. I'm glad I don't watch Undisputed. I mean, I'm still having a tough time watching First Take, just because I want my beauty sleep, and because I don't really watch ESPN a whole lot. I'm just still sleeping, or I'm just figuring out what I'm going to do for my day. I have other things to do than watch that. So that is that for my Dum Dum of the Week. So before I head out, I gotta reflect on 100 episodes of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. So like I said, Larry B deserves lots of credit for helping me get this show. I really do appreciate it. I remember one time he messaged me, he was like, well, how about you take the reins and we get you another show called in regards to like Southern California. Like at first he was going to have me have the whole West Coast show, and then he decided to shorten it to like California, and then he says, well, how about SoCal? And it's like, all right, let's do it, SoCal. And then I had to think of a name, and it's like, what would a good name be? So then I thought of SoCal Supreme Sports Show, and Larry B got the whole theme right on the nose. He basically said, well, like a Supreme Pizza. And I'm like, bingo, just because there's lots of SoCal sports, and more importantly, there's a lot of toppings on a Supreme Pizza. So that's why I decided to name the show SoCal Supreme Sports Show. So it's been up and down with this show. Obviously, I have had to cancel doing the show, or I've had to like postpone the show just because of other things that have happened, like the NBA playoffs and other sports I have to cover. But I definitely do not regret doing this show. I love doing this show. It really is amazing. One person I also have to give credit to is my brother. I wish I could have had him on the show, but it's all good. Like, I've loved having him on the show, and it gives me that extra presence as a host when I have someone like him on a show, just because I like it when he adds insight. And unlike me, he actually listens to like the other podcasts of like ESPN LA, and then he also listens to other like sports. He sometimes listens to sports shows, but overall, it's just such a great presence to have my brother as a guest for a podcast. If he wasn't so busy, he could probably be my co-host, but he is a definite busy man. I'm just going to leave it at that. So overall, it's just been fun doing the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. It hasn't been easy by means. It hasn't been smooth sailing like Set Point, but I'm 2 years strong, and I'm basically going to do my best to try to make sure I don't take weeks off. That is my goal going forward. I want to make sure I do not take a week off for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And if I do, I'll probably just shuffle it to another day. But either way, I really want to continue SoCal Supreme Sports Show going on a weekly basis. I no longer am working at the grocery store, as I think some of you saw on my personal Twitter account. I finally have reached the end of the tunnel, and I won't have to move it to 5 p.m. or shuffle my show around. I can consistently have SoCal Supreme Sports Show on at noon on Fridays. That's where my time is going to be dedicated to. And here's hoping that, and this is kind of veering away from the topic at hand, here's hoping I don't have to go back to the grocery store, which would mean that I don't have to move SoCal Supreme Sports Show a whole lot. But overall, I really want to keep SoCal Supreme Sports Show going. It's tough to talk all things SoCal. One time, I basically had a few shows that lasted 2 hours just because I dedicated the portion of the show to the college sports like soccer, volleyball. Well, even though I didn't really talk a whole lot of volleyball, but I talked soccer, tennis, basketball, water polo, lacrosse, even though the only lacrosse I was talking about was San Diego State and USC women's lacrosse, just because they're the only NCAA sanctioned programs in Southern California, but I digress. But you get the point. I was talking all things Southern California sports, and then I look back at it and I'm like, this isn't going to work. 2 hours is kind of long, and it's no one's going to really want to listen for that long. I mean, this show alone is an hour and a half already, but it's a special show, so I don't care what anyone says. It's going to be an hour and a half long. So back to my reflection. I really am happy to continue to do this podcast. I'm happy I was able to reach 100 episodes. If it weren't for the NBA playoffs, last week would have been episode 100. And even though I'm still going to be busy, I'm still going to carve out time for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And I'm going to give the SoCal fans what they really want and desire. I really want to be consistent with this show like I am with Set Point. Because I'm going to be honest, Set Point is kind of my baby. Everyone kind of mainly knows me for Set Point more so than SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And I've kind of gotten a lot of notoriety of Set Point, courtesy of Set Point. People have been saying, hey, you're that guy who does Set Point. And even some of my friends in SoCal say, I listen to Set Point quite a bit. Sometimes they listen to SoCal Supreme Sports Show, but mainly I've been hearing, I listen to Set Point quite a bit, and your show's solid, dude. And it's I appreciate that. And they've even given me guest recommendations and whatnot, and I love it. So, in closing of my thoughts and reflections of SoCal Supreme Sports Show, I also love the bantering. I also love that I can have all my other colleagues, such as Gina G, who is the host of the Reppin' to NorCal Sports, and then also Adam's show, Chi-Town Weekly, and then the former Kansas City Shuffle and whatnot. I also love that the hosts do help me get better and give me more material, and they always ask for my take on this player and that player. I'm really happy that I have a really good team such as IE Sports Radio behind me. I couldn't have done it without them. And yes, Gina says she mentioned Set Point, and she does. She needs to get back to listening to Set Point. Well, I'll guess I should reiterate this before I close out my thoughts. I will be having Loyola High School boys volleyball standout Dylan Klein on Set Point, and that'll be. And I should also mention that Dylan Klein, who was a standout at Loyola High School boys volleyball, is currently enrolled at USC. Next week is his first week as the USC schools and whatnot start out school this upcoming week. And I guess this week and then the previous weeks were like moving day. But either way, I do plan to have Dylan Klein on Set Point, which is kind of a programmer's note. Quick little plug-in. But either way, to close out my reflection of SoCal Supreme Sports Show in 100 episodes, it hasn't been the easiest road. Like I said, I've had to postpone shows due to personal things in my life, such as work and covering sports and whatnot. But like I said, I'm going to make a pact to make sure I don't postpone a whole lot of shows. From this point forward, hopefully to like the 3-year anniversary of SoCal Supreme Sports Show, I don't have to postpone a whole lot of shows. If I can't help it, I can't help it. If I have to shuffle the shows around, so be it. But either way, I want to make a goal to make sure I don't have to cancel a show. And I really do appreciate everyone who has been behind me, whether it's my brother, whether it's Larry B., whether it's Gina, whether it's my whole family, whether it's my friends, whether it's everybody. If you've helped contribute to making the SoCal Supreme Sports Show better, I really do appreciate you. If you've listened at any time, at any point of any episode, I really do appreciate you. It really means the world to me, and I could not be more happy to do a show such as this. It hasn't been easy, but I wouldn't want to have it any other way. So that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Without any further delay, let's get on out of here, because I got me some preparation to do, and I got to call my brother. You dig? Thank you everyone for tuning in to the 100th episode of Set Point. I really do appreciate you all tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen anytime, anywhere, any place, I appreciate you. Here's to 100 more episodes to come as the SoCal Supreme Sports Show needs to keep that SoCal trend going. We ain't going anywhere. Thank you to Gina G that popped in the chat room. She says we appreciate you and she's a great show and happy 100 episodes. I really do appreciate your support, Gina. Thank you to Larry B. Thank you to David Seacrest and Mike Pat for popping in the live chat room. I will be back tomorrow with my boy Larry B. with 3 and Out College Edition. And then I will be back Monday with Set Point. This will be the Season 4 premiere of Set Point. That's when you will see me by myself. But next time I'm on the air, I'll be with Larry B. talking some college sports, talking about that USC, that UCLA, that San Diego State, that 3C2A, the high school sports. You get the point. You're going to be seeing me tomorrow with my boy Larry B. doing 3 and Out College Edition. But until then, you all have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the football that's coming back. We are very close to having college football. I'm really excited for college football season. Really looking forward to what USC can do. Looking forward to what all the other SoCal teams can do in college. Looking forward to all the high school football things that I'm covering today and throughout the entire season. But until then, you'll have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the weekend. Just continue to wear your sunscreen because it's still pretty hot. And just remember one thing. SoCal is for SoCal. Have a great weekend, everybody. Peace!